Good morning. I want to start out with an apology in advance, and that is I have two simultaneous committee meetings right now, and we're doing a markup in the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and I have to be there. So I'm going to start this meeting off, and at some point I will introduce my co-panelist, David Sweikert, who will take over as chairman of the meeting. And so I just want to apologize to you that at some point during this meeting I'm going to stand up and excuse myself, but we have a very important markup going on in the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. Unfortunately, the committees don't check with each other's schedules when they schedule these things. So I thank every one of you very much for being here in advance. Thank you for taking your time to come and educate us. It's so very important. I'll go as far as I can, and then I'll excuse myself. So thank you for that. The hearing will now come to order. Today we will explore the importance of education and training for small business owners and entrepreneurs and highlight examples of the private sector imparting knowledge to growing small businesses around the nation. Half of all small businesses fail within 5 years after opening. And recent research has shown that newly formed small businesses are creating fewer jobs than in the past. Analysts cite a lack of general business acumen and an inability to adapt to rapidly changing economic environments as a reason for the challenges they so often face. Since historically, small businesses have been responsible for over 2/3 of job creation in the country, it is critical that we ensure our nation's entrepreneurs are receiving the educational and training opportunities that provide the knowledge and in turn the confidence they need to grow. Education for those looking to start or grow their businesses comes in many forms, whether it is through a classroom environment, online course, mentorship provided in an incubator or accelerator, or networking through peer-to-peer programs. Small businesses are using these avenues to gain the knowledge, expertise, and personal connections to help them grow their businesses and hire more employees. There are numerous examples of private sector stepping up around the country to provide both established and fledgling small businesses with the information they need not only to survive, but to also grow and create jobs. Today we will hear about some of these initiatives and how they assist our nation's job creators. We are fortunate to have here with us some of the leaders that help to address the critical knowledge gap facing small business owners and entrepreneurs, as well as an entrepreneur that has participated in and benefited from such efforts. I look forward to learning firsthand from our witnesses today about how their work has helped stimulate economic growth and create jobs around the country. Thank you very, very much for being here. I now recognize the ranking member for her opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today's hearing will provide insights into a variety of private sector initiatives to train and mentor entrepreneurs and small business owners across the country. We will also hear how these efforts are contributing to our nation's economic growth and job creation. In today's hearing, we have representatives from big and small companies as well as the nonprofit sector. I look forward to hearing about your programs and how we as policymakers can learn from your successes and failures to continue supporting small businesses, the growth engines of our economy. Initiatives that support small business owners and entrepreneurial development are essential to promoting economic and development growth. Historically, the United States has experienced job growth primarily due to business startups. In the last 30 years, new firms have generated an estimated 3 million new jobs every year. In fact, small businesses that are less than 5 years old create 2/3 of all net new jobs. As the nation continues its recovery from the Great Recession and the labor market remains weak, it is vital to support policies in the public and private sectors that support entrepreneurs and small businesses. If entrepreneurs have the support, tools, and resources that they need, they will grow to the point where they can generate job opportunities for the millions of unemployed Americans. But we all know that being an entrepreneur and starting a business is difficult because it entails having a good idea, finding capital, and taking a huge risk. Obstacles exist at every stage of business, but they are particularly acute at the earliest developmental stages. These challenges include financing, capital access, and uncertainty over regulation and taxes. Thankfully, those willing to take the risk can take advantage of a number of technical assistance and entrepreneurial development opportunities provided by the federal government and also by the private sector, which we'll be hearing about today. I'm excited to have the Corporation for Enterprise Development here to discuss their efforts to help low and moderate income entrepreneurs formalize their businesses and gain access to tax credits, financial incentives, and credit products. Their self-employment tax initiative has helped over 12,000 entrepreneurs prepare their taxes at little or no cost. Considering the complexities of the tax code, this program offers much-needed assistance to entrepreneurs who don't have the means to pay a professional to file their taxes. We also have Goldman Sachs today to talk about their 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative, a program designed to help small businesses with practical business and management education, as well as access to capital and business support services. For the last 3 years, I've invited a representative from the 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative to my annual small business workshops to talk about this very successful program and how entrepreneurs in my district can benefit from it. This is a great program that gives small businesses a unique opportunity to network, receive top-notch training, and direct access to the top business executives. There are also programs that leverage federal dollars with the private sector to help entrepreneurs. One of my favorite programs is the Small Business Development Centers, which provide small businesses with training and counseling for free. SBDCs receive funding from the Small Business Administration, but do have to form partnerships with the private sector to receive matching funds. Last year alone, SBDCs in 900 locations across the country provided assistance to 210,000 small businesses. Continuing federal and private support for businesses like this and programs like this are vital to our economic recovery and future economic growth. With this in mind, I'm looking forward to today's hearing, which will provide insights into what CFED, Goldman Sachs, and other private sector companies are doing to help entrepreneurs and small businesses grow and succeed. Thank you, Chairman Rice, for convening this hearing, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mrs. Chu. If committee members have an opening statement prepared, I ask they be submitted for the record. I'd like to take a moment to explain the timing lights to you. You'll each have 5 minutes to deliver your testimony. The light will start out as green. When you have 1 minute remaining, the light in front of you will turn yellow. Finally, at the end of your 5 minutes, it'll turn red. And we'll have a little leeway in there. I ask that you try to adhere to the time limit, but again, there'll be some flexibility. I want to thank you once again before I start introducing you for being here. This is such a exciting and critical time in Washington. A lot of things that come together that affect small business, a lot of things that will affect our competitiveness worldwide. With the continuing resolution, this potential with Obamacare getting ready to kick in, with the debt ceiling coming in, with all these things coming together all at one time, it's an exciting time to set up our country for competitiveness and to set up our country for the future. So thank you again for being here at this really critical time in our nation's history. Our first witness is Dina Powell, Global Head of Corporate Engagement at Goldman Sachs and President of the Goldman Sachs Foundation, where she leads its 10,000 Small Businesses program. Prior to joining Goldman Sachs, Mrs. Powell served as Assistant Secretary of State for Educational and Cultural Affairs and as Deputy Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs, after serving as Assistant to the President for Presidential Personnel at the White House. She also serves as a member of the J. William Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board, the Board of Trustees at the American University in Cairo, and the Vital Voices Global Partnership, and is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Ms. Powell, you are a busy lady, and we look very forward to your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's really an honor to be here today and to join you and Ranking Member Chu and members of the subcommittee, including Congressman Schweikert, Congresswoman Meng, and Congressman Schneider. We are really honored to have the opportunity to testify today about the 10,000 Small Business Initiative. Goldman Sachs proudly launched this effort alongside a coalition of individuals and institutions who are committed to economic growth and job creation in our country. These include our co-chairs of the Advisory Council, our CEO at Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein, Berkshire Hathaway CEO Warren Buffett, and Harvard Business School professor Dr. Michael Porter. They lead an advisory council that includes Dan Danner of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, Mark Morial, head of the National Urban League, Javier Palomares, head of the Hispanic Chamber, and former Education Secretary Margaret Spellings. Together, this coalition built 10,000 Small Businesses, which is an integrated program that offers proven tools that small business owners need to grow their businesses. This $500 million commitment provides entrepreneurs with 3 key resources. The first is a practical, high-quality business education. The second is growth and working capital. And finally, the third, and often mentioned as the most critical, is business advising, networks, technical assistance, and mentors. We believe it's this integrated framework, bringing all 3 all 3 pieces of the puzzle together, that helps small business owners in one program. We also know that we've tested this program in a global marketplace. This framework has been born out of a program we ran globally called 10,000 Women, a $100 million investment that was seeking to reach female entrepreneurs in 43 countries with business education, mentoring, and links to capital. We're very proud that this month marks the graduation of the 10,000th woman in the program. We were able to apply many of the lessons of this global program and the measurement and the results that we took away to building our domestic effort here in the United States. In just 3 years, we've invested in an infrastructure, we've validated our model, and we've launched the program in 15 markets across the country. Now 10,000 Small Businesses is active in these markets. It's designed for existing small businesses poised for growth. In each market, we build a separate and distinct entrepreneurial ecosystem to provide local services. And the partners include respected community institutions like community colleges, community development financial institutions, local chambers of commerce, local community groups, and mayors and local officials committed to supporting their small businesses. In the interest of time, I'll respectfully refer you to my written testimony for the full program description, but I'd love to use my remaining time with you to tell you 3 lessons we've learned along the way and some of our results to date. First, as my bosses always tell me at Goldman Sachs, measurement is crucial. We rigorously track the performance of our businesses at regular intervals when they complete the program. We're pleased to report that just 6 months after graduation, more than 60% of the participants are reporting increased revenues, and nearly half are creating net new jobs. Additionally, we were surprised by one metric. We assumed that we'd have a high attrition rate initially because these are very busy small business owners, and this is an intense time commitment, and you can't graduate without completing it all and having a growth business plan submitted. We were surprised and pleased to see that nationwide we have a 99% completion and graduation rate. One example of success is in Ranking Member Chu's district. Ada Chan from Pasadena, California. Ada runs Fresh Events Company, an event planning firm. Ada's revenue has grown 22% since joining the program, and while she was in the program, she was named the Small Business Person of the Year by the SBA in Los Angeles. And she was referred by you inviting us to the session where she applied for the program. So thank you very much for that, Congresswoman Chu. Our second lesson is that public-private partnerships are critical, and I'm so honored to join my fellow panelists, because that's, I think, the message that you'll hear from all of us. No one institution can do it all, and our partnerships have included, as I mentioned, these local community organizations, but many members of Congress and others who, as you have nominated small business owners. We even had Speaker Boehner a few months ago meet a roundtable of graduates from Ohio, and he gave them some tough lessons of being a business person himself. A couple of years ago, I was honored to have the opportunity to join Ranking Member Velasquez in her district in Brooklyn to tour one of our small business owners' sites, Mike DiMarino, who has a tool and die fabrication business in Brooklyn. Mike succeeded very well in our first cohort at LaGuardia Community College, and then he nominated Andy DiMarino, his brother, who is in Congresswoman Meng's district. Andy got into the program and taught us one of the best lessons, and we've seen this example over and over again. He actually merged with a fellow classmate, another landscaper in New York, and now together they are competing for much larger bids throughout the city. This is that important example in the third lesson and final lesson learned, the impact of peer-to-peer learning. We see that businesses enter the program and they often say to us, I feel like I'm an island all by myself. But when they enter the program, they immediately build a network of support and create a tangible marketplace together. In fact, 70% of our graduates are either doing business together or referring business to each other. We are really looking forward to scaling this program across the country, and we're honored to use the occasion of this prestigious hearing, Mr. Chairman, to announce today that we are launching a national expansion of 10,000 small businesses. We're now beginning to accept applications for our first ever national cohort. Any qualified business across the country may apply. Accepted participants will take the full program at Babson College, and we could not be more excited to encourage you to nominate your constituents. So I just want to say in closing, on behalf of our partners and all of the people at Goldman Sachs, it's been a humbling and inspiring experience to work with Americans across the country, these small business owners dedicated to job creation and growth. Thank you so much, and I'll be pleased to take your questions.
No, thank you, Mrs. Powell, and thank you so much for what you're doing for American business. We appreciate it very much. Sounds like you're doing great things. Our next witness is Dr. Stephen Morgan, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of My Own Business, Inc., an organization that provides online training courses to those looking to learn how to start or grow a business. In addition to his role at My Own Business, Dr. Morgan currently serves as the president of the University of the West in Rosemead, California, and was previously president of the University of Laverne for 26 years. Dr. Morgan, we thank you for being here and look forward to hearing your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Rice. Thank you, Chairman Rice and Ranking Member Chu. It's a pleasure for me to have my paying job in your district. Thank you very much. Other members of the committee, it's a great opportunity for us to discuss small business creation, ownership, and most importantly, success. I am particularly appreciative of the opportunity to be here as I am the volunteer chair of the Board of Trustees of My Own Business Incorporated, a Los Angeles-based nonprofit organization providing free educational tools and training via the World Wide Web to support successful businesses around the world. As you well know, much of the success of our country comes from the fortitude of new business creation, often started by those who seek to create new opportunity for their families. And that has been particularly true during these very difficult years since 2008. Please allow me to share with you a story about how our organization came to be. On April 29, 1992, verdicts were rendered in a controversial case involving the 1991 beating of Rodney King. The toll of the riots that followed was devastating. More than 50 people were killed, over 4,000 people were injured, 12,000 were arrested, and $1 billion worth of property was damaged. Southern California entrepreneur Phil Holland, founder of the Yum Yum chain of donut shops in California, watched in dismay during those riots. Having already successfully published The Entrepreneur's Guide and The Moonlight Entrepreneur, Phil decided that he wanted to go into the riot-torn area to teach those who were in that community how to start their own business. And for the next 3 years, Phil drove weekly to Compton, California to teach those courses. The final session of the class was taught in Spanish, and eager small business owners came by the busload from across Los Angeles to hear Phil Holland's presentation. Then in 1994, Phil Holland created My Own Business Incorporated, Moby, a 501c3 public charity, and he began to build a website so people everywhere could take advantage of a free curriculum designed to share with them the do's and don'ts of starting their own business. The free website courses include quizzes on all subjects contained in the curriculum, business plan templates, 75 video presentations by business experts, and a final examination and certificate of completion for those scoring over 80% on the quizzes. Moby's Growing a Business course includes practical business training, specifically focusing on 15 topics necessary for expanding a business. For the past 20 years, Moby has offered this free business training to nearly 35 million people who have visited the Moby website. Since the launch of the web-based Moby curriculum, 469,000 have completed the courses, and nearly 31,000 have applied for the certificate of completion. The Moby website is viewed monthly by an average of 235,000, resulting in 4,000 students completing the Moby courses each month. In a 2010 study involving 5,000 Moby graduates conducted by the UCLA Anderson Graduate School of Business, 22% of the respondents indicated their businesses would have failed if they had not studied the topics offered in the Moby curriculum. Of the 5,000 Moby graduates responding to the survey, 56% have actually started a business, and 77% of those who started a company were still in business. Nearly 60% of the respondents reported that they had been in business for more than 2 years, and nearly one-third reported that they planned to hire at least one new employee within the next 12 months. 3 important partnerships have strengthened Moby's outreach since its founding in 1994. First, for more than 10 years, Moby has provided its courses to the World Bank. The second important partnership continues with Cisco Systems Incorporated, which primarily has used the program in its internationally focused Cisco Entrepreneur Institute. The third partnership that Moby engaged in was with the Small Business Administration. For a number of years until 2006, a link to the Moby Starting a Business course was provided on the SBA website. It has been a pleasure for me to have had this opportunity to share the extraordinary service and contributions of Phil Holland, an American entrepreneur who sought to significantly give back by helping others achieve similar success, and all free of charge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morgan. Sounds like you're doing big things. Thank you for being here. Our next witness is Damian Stevens, founder and CEO of Servocity, a growing technology company located in the Next Innovation Center in Greenville, South Carolina. Prior to starting Servocity, Mr. Stevens founded Utopia Net, which was the #1 ranked web development company in the upstate area. He also previously founded GSA Technology Council in South Carolina, a community of IT professionals. Mr. Stevens is both a high school and college dropout, but he's been asked to teach at the very same college he dropped out of and has served in advisory capacities for other colleges and universities. Mr. Stevens, we look forward to your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I want to thank you and the members of the subcommittee for the opportunity to be here and testify at today's hearing. I am Damian Stevens, the founder and CEO of Servocity. Servocity provides backup and disaster recovery as a service to a national network of partners or technology companies that service small and mid-sized businesses. I wanted to talk a little bit about the story that we've had in our growth. In 2008, I joined Next Upstate and began learning from other entrepreneurs at events such as their CEO Roundtable. Before joining Next Upstate, I made all the mistakes myself. without the benefit of learning from others, specifically other entrepreneurs, and the challenge is unique to high growth companies. Next Upstate is an organization that attracts and grows high impact technology companies by developing the entrepreneurial ecosystem needed by these companies and connecting companies to the ecosystem. In 2009, Servosity moved into a small office in the Next Innovation Center, a collaborative workspace formed by a group of entrepreneurs in the Greenville Chamber, which houses multiple high-growth companies. Upon moving into this office, I came into contact with Michelin Development and learned of their low-interest loans they offer to small businesses. After being turned down the first time, I persevered and was fortunate enough to be approved for a $100,000 loan for my small business after applying the second time. This capital gave us the bridge to grow from the company we were to the company we wanted to be, to that next level. That gave us the ability to grow to the point where we were able to attract and secure private investment. In 2011 and again in 2012, Servosity attracted private investment capital. In 2012, Servosity announced its expansion into a 3,200 square foot new headquarters at the Next Innovation Center in Greenville, South Carolina, and our intention to add 30 jobs in the next 18 months. We started off this year with 4 employees and have 12 now, and we are currently growing and hiring. These jobs are just the beginning. We have the opportunity to employ hundreds of people over the next few years. These jobs we're adding are for software developers, system engineers, support engineers, sales, account management, and business development. The average earnings are $80,000, and some positions are significantly higher. Those earnings are more than double the average prevailing wage in South Carolina. Not only are we creating jobs in the knowledge economy, we are creating meaningful, high-paying positions with nearly unlimited growth potential for employees. Without the Next ecosystem, I wouldn't have learned from other entrepreneurs. I would have met with Michelin Development to have the opportunity to secure that growth capital. I wouldn't have been able to grow to the next stage to secure private investment capital, been introduced to potential investors, nor would we have attracted the top-tier talent required to grow a fast-paced technology company. Thank you for your valuable time today. I enjoyed being able to share a very small part of our entrepreneurial journey. I wouldn't be here today without the help from so many others. I am so blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for your contribution to small business in this country. I would now yield to Mrs. Chu, who will introduce our final witness.
I have the pleasure of introducing Kim Pate. She is the Corporation for Enterprise Development's Chief External Relations Officer. She's responsible for the biennial Assets Learning Conference, which brings together over 1,000 leaders in the asset building field to discuss ways that assets can help create prosperity and expand economic opportunity for low-income people. Kim also coordinates strategic events, partnerships, and communications across CFED's priority areas of work, including asset building, entrepreneurship, tribal, state, and local economic development, and affordable home ownership. Prior to joining CFED, Kim was the Deputy Director of the National Projects for Wider Opportunities for Women in Washington, D.C., which is a multiple strategy women's employment organization that is recognized nationally for its skill training models, technical assistance, and advocacy for women workers. Kim holds a law degree from the University of California, Los Angeles School of Law, and a BA in political science from Stanford University. Thank you for being here, Kim Pate.
Chairman Rice, Ranking Member Chu, and Member Mr. Schweikart, thank you so much for this opportunity to testify on behalf of efforts to support entrepreneurs and specifically small and micro businesses. We applaud this subcommittee's focus on this sector. The Corporation for Enterprise Development was founded in 1979 to support entrepreneurs, and enterprise, you may say, is our middle name. Microbusinesses, those with 4 or fewer employees, account for nearly 90% of all U.S. businesses. So that means that roughly 1 in 6 South Carolinians and Californians own and operate a microbusiness. This figure is representative nationwide. Microbusinesses contribute to community revitalization, and Mary Gath of South Carolina, who started Dwell Smart as a retail shop offering environmentally healthy products, is a great example of this. After winning contracts with large green companies, Dwell Smart needed a location with a warehouse space and a loading dock to be able to meet all of the demand. They found an unused building in an area of redeveloped downtown Charleston, and with a Charleston Local Development Corporation loan, Dwell Smart rehabilitated the property and led to more revitalization in the area. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, businesses created by low-income entrepreneurs have high survival rates, ranging from 57 to 90%. This is higher than the rate for all small businesses. Microbusinesses contribute to American economic growth and vitality. On average, microbusinesses create 2.9 full and part-time jobs per business. Small changes to enhance the capacity of such a large and productive sector could reap major dividends. Another microbusiness example comes from CFED partner PACE in Los Angeles. Deborah Stern attended PACE's entrepreneurial training program while starting a business making tamales. She won a PACE award of $5,000, which she used to hire 2 employees and rent a kitchen. Her restaurant, La Guerra Tamalera, in the Silver Lake neighborhood of Los Angeles, has become an area favorite. Recognizing this importance of micro-entrepreneurship as a critical strategy, CFED launched the Self-Employment Tax Initiative, or SETI, in 2005, and we had 3 goals. First, build assets for low-income households. Second, create jobs. And third, increase tax revenue by bringing more self-employed into the formal tax system. Most of SETI's local partners are volunteer income tax assistance, or VITA programs. And these VITA programs provide free tax support to low and moderate income taxpayers. There are nearly 6,000 VITA community-based sites throughout the country. For example, in Horry County, South Carolina, you can find VITA programs at several libraries. In California, VITA assistance is offered through the Monterey Park Brueggemeyer Library and at El Centro de Acción Social in Pasadena. VITA is a good example of successful public-private partnership. In South Carolina, California, and the rest of the country, these VITA sites represent local community efforts supported by federal grants, state and local funds, and philanthropy all coming together. According to a 2012 National Community Tax Coalition, or NCTC report, VITA helped more than 3 million taxpayers claim $2.2 billion in tax refunds while saving the federal government $5.5 million in reduced processing costs. So while VITA assists some low-income entrepreneurs, IRS restrictions on allowable VITA activities have prevented many self-employed earners from receiving any assistance at all. Recognizing that VITA's narrow scope meant that sites were turning away micro-entrepreneurs with few other options, NCTC led an effort with CFED and the IRS to build on CFED's SETI program. In 2010, we launched the Schedule C VITA initiative with 16 pilot sites that have served businesses with up to $25,000 in expenses. In its 3 years of operation, the Schedule C VITA initiative has not only brought thousands of low-income entrepreneurs into the VITA system, it's done so without reducing tax filing quality. Our current research is examining how other systems, 3 key federal policy systems, tax, but also workforce and post-secondary education, are supporting or failing these entrepreneurs. And while this research will reveal new forms worth considering, this subcommittee need not wait to act in support of micro-entrepreneurs. As you may know, in the previous Congress, Ranking Member Chu proposed one significant step forward, the Entrepreneur Startup Growth Act. And this legislation, which is based on CFED's SETI program, would have provided additional support for micro-entrepreneur tax filing assistance. The $1.5 million authorized by this legislation could support hundreds of local VITA sites to serve thousands of entrepreneurs. So in conclusion, Chairman Rice, Ranking Member Chu, members of the committee, I'd like to thank you again for inviting me to testify today. We at CFED are eager to work with the subcommittee to expand economic opportunity, create jobs, and support microenterprise. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Wow, what a very impressive panel. I sure appreciate what y'all do. You know, I don't think there's anything more important than job creation and economic development, and you are right at the heart of it, and I so appreciate what you do. Mrs. Pate, I have to correct you on one thing. You said Horry County, South Carolina, Horry. I was the chairman of that county, and my wife said, I am not the first lady of Horry County. It's Horry County. Thank you very much.
Duly corrected.
She would be very upset if I didn't correct you on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
it's funnier the other way, though.
You know, I was a tax lawyer and a CPA in my real life for 25 years. And I think one of the biggest problems that businesses face is uncertainty. I think if they don't know what the rules are, then it's hard to play the game if you don't know what the rules are. And so I think Washington is one of the biggest creators of that uncertainty. Here we have been operating under continuing resolution for years. We haven't had a budget for years. We're considering the adoption of a continuing resolution for a few months to get past this, that, and other. We've got this health care law getting ready to hit on January 1st. I don't think anybody really knows the effect of that. People say they do, but I don't think anybody really knows the effect of that. What I'm curious about is, from y'all's perspective, you know, I'm getting a lot of calls in my congressional office about these things. How is the uncertainty around the Affordable Care Act affecting the small businesses that you represent or work with? Ms. Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, for the past 3 years, we've heard a lot of different challenges from small business owners. And I think that it affects certainly, and many of those challenges relate to workforce issues. Maybe I'll just back up a second, though, because you mentioned something about yourself and your career prior to being a member of Congress, serving for 25 years as a successful tax lawyer. I can't tell you the amount of legal issues small business owners face. And that is probably an area, whether it affects regulation around health care or employee relations or access to capital, that they know the least about, and there are the fewest programs out there for them. I'm sure your law firm in South Carolina used to do pro bono work. We've been so pleased to see a number of law firms around the country come to us and say, can we work with your small business owners? So we now, in every single region that we operate, have law firms like Weil Gotchel, Latham & Watkins, many, doing an entire legal clinic. And I do think one of the areas that our small business owners will certainly ask about are many of the regulations that affect their workforce. And so I think that's something we're hopefully pre-planning for by giving them an outward connection to these lawyers.
I had a fellow in my office yesterday who owned 2 franchise auto service, and he had 40 employees. And he didn't want to open a third one because he'd go over 50 employees. Are you hearing things like that?
You know, we're hearing a number of challenges, but I can't say it's specifically that. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. When you get into 10,000 small businesses, you're really focused on whether or not you're going to be able to grow your business. That is one element. But as Ms. Pate was talking about, the largest growth opportunity in terms of job creation are coming from small businesses, 4, 5, 6 employees, but that could get to 40, could get to 100. And I think that there's so many challenges that we hear. You know what the biggest one is? All I do is work in my business, not on my business. I don't know how to be a CEO. I don't know how to make contacts. I don't know how to address all these legal issues. So I would say we're hearing a whole bucket of different issues.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, another thing I'm hearing from a lot of people, particularly in the service business, is that they're cutting their employees back to 29, 28 hours a week. Are you hearing a lot of that?
What we see is that entrepreneurs have a passion. They're driven to start their own business, and that passion is a powerful fuel. And once they get into their business, there is a great deal of red tape that the small business owner faces. And the uncertainty of future legislation, whether it be Obamacare or whether it be other legislation, is what really concerns them, because most of them don't have a staff. They may not have an attorney on retainer. They may not have an accountant on retainer. And it's the answers to those questions that puzzle them and trouble them. And certainly they think about that before they hire people or expand their business beyond a certain level.
Mr. Stevens?
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I can at least speak for our company. We are not at the size that we have to worry about being at 50 employees or something related to healthcare, additional complexities. But that uncertainty has created issues for us. We want to focus on growth, delivering the best service to our customers, and not be concerned with the uncertainty. So I know from our perspective, uncertainty has been a problem. And the way that we addressed it is we are working with a co-employment firm, and essentially we get to give them the headaches of dealing with the healthcare issues. And whether we're 12 or whether we're 112 employees, we have a predictable path and cost structure to get there. So that was our way of trading uncertainty for certainty. And it certainly has its costs and expenses. I can tell you, obviously, healthcare costs continue to rise and are a big issue for a small business. And for the first several years, we were unable to offer healthcare. Financially, it just wasn't feasible. We would have had to hire less people or not grow. And I'm thankful to say that we do offer, of course, healthcare today, and that's been a big issue on our minds.
And Mrs. Pate?
I think that Ms. Powell pointed out a really important need in the field, which is that entrepreneurs are finding themselves surrounded by questions of legality, red tape, taxes, et cetera. And this is another thing for them to be worried about. So what
And do you agree that most of that comes from Washington, D.C.?
Well, to the extent that this is the seat of government authority and power, a lot of it is coming from D.C. And so especially the entrepreneurs who are rural, who are disconnected from cities, who don't understand the government process or the legal processes, are feeling very concerned about the viability of their businesses with all of this change. So what a lot of successful programs like PACE in Los Angeles are doing is looking at integrated service delivery so that they're providing access to taxes, which is a moment that you can grab people in and say, and by the way, are you familiar with the Affordable Care Act and the changes? Are you familiar with regulations related to your food business, et cetera? So it's like we're meeting the entrepreneurs where they are with every need that they may have.
It's hard to be familiar with regulations that haven't been written yet. You have to have ESP.
Yes, or good lobbyists in Washington, D.C.
I'm a big fan of Michael Porter. You mentioned him earlier, expert in national competitiveness. Mm-hmm. And he's a firm believer that our tax code makes us not competitive worldwide. What do y'all think about that? Do you think we need tax reform? I do. I'm curious. Start with you, Ms. Powell.
Well, can I say one thing about Dr. Porter? I think he sees a number of things that the United States could improve on to be way more effective. One of the reasons we were really honored he was a co-chair of the program is that over 15 years in running the Initiative on Inner City Competitiveness, he actually did an analysis that showed these inner cities, these urban communities, are really not just the right thing to do in terms of an investment, but they're the smart economic strategic thing to do, because they are underserved populations that don't have access to capital, that don't have access to job growth. And he tracked businesses for 15 years and found that 70,000 jobs came directly from those communities when the business owners were served. And I think that was something that was new, because it was really data that showed there's growth opportunity, not just a good thing to do in terms of investment. I couldn't speak directly to the tax reform issue, Mr. Chairman, but I do think that the most important thing we've learned is that we need to be bringing stories to you of your constituents and the small business owners that we see. And increasingly, our small business owners know now where to go as they come into our program or some of the programs here, that their voices matter to you and then they need to be talking. Certainly in our legal clinics, taxes come up quite a bit.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Dr. Morgan?
With all due respect to CPAs and attorneys, Mr. Chairman, I would like to say that the entrepreneurs who start small businesses would like to spend as little time and as few of their resources on those services as they possibly can and move forward with growing their business and being successful entrepreneurs.
So you're thinking a simpler tax code would be a good thing?
So my belief is that if we can simplify the tax code and other laws that are coming down or that are out there in uncertainty land, the easier it will be for entrepreneurs to be successful, particularly in challenging economic times.
I completely agree with that. I think we can compete with anybody worldwide, but the government stands in the way. Mr. Stevens, what do you think about that?
Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think Dr. Morgan put it well, that all things being equal, simplicity is better. As a small business and as one that speaks with a number of entrepreneurs, uncertainty and complexity are the enemies of growth. We need to focus on innovating and creating jobs and serving the customers and delivering what we do, and spend less time on uncertainty and tax issues and other things.
Complying with government red tape. What do you think, Mrs. Pate?
I think that entrepreneurs who don't understand the tax code have three choices. One is to just figure it out themselves. The second is to hire a commercial tax preparer. And the third is to not file. If they do it on their own, the chances are that they'll make mistakes and they'll incur liabilities that they're not prepared to pay. If they hire a commercial preparer, they may be paying exorbitant rates or...
That's clearly, as a tax lawyer, let me say, that's money well spent.
Yes, assuming they can afford it, right? It may be out of their ability, right, as brand new businesses. And third, not file. And if they don't file, we know what happens then. They are contributing to the tax gap, and they're making themselves unqualified for any support through the tax code and also for earned income tax credits, child tax credits, and other benefits they may be eligible for.
Well, I completely agree with you. I think our business can compete with anybody, but the government's got a noose of red tape around their neck, and we've got to do everything we can to loosen that and make the road ahead as easy as we possibly can. We don't need to be an obstacle. We need to be somebody that encourages and makes it easier for business. Thank you very much. Next up will be the ranking member, Mrs. Chu, and I'm going to leave now. I can't thank you enough for being here and what you do to encourage business and jobs in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to yield to Congressmember Schneider because he's under time pressure due to a competing committee. So, Congressmember Schneider.
Thank you very much, and thank you for letting me jump ahead of the line, so to speak. If any of you in your small business or small businesses you advise can find a way to be in two places at one time, we all would be so grateful. But speaking of grateful, let me say thank you for what you all are doing. I spent my career as a small businessman mostly advising other small businesses. I know the companies you're dealing with. In particular, I know as a startup, companies are dealing with so many challenges. For a lot of them, it's their dream. They're going to cobble together all the pennies and nickels and dimes that will get them to there. And every single penny they spend is crucial, and it can be the difference between success and failure. And so much of what they're facing for the first time. So to have guidance is also crucial. But they can't afford the guidance oftentimes, whether it's a CPA or an accountant, or in my case, a strategy consultant. These small companies don't have the resources to reach out to people who are providing those for a fee. And whether it's a volunteer organization or a group like 10,000 Small Businesses from Goldman Sachs or what you're doing, Mrs. Pate, Ms. Pate, is critical, because these companies grow. They start out, maybe it's a barbershop or a delicatessen or even a food cart. and they start out with that, but their aspirations are to be something great, and you provide them the pathway. So let me just again say thank you for what you are doing. In that context, some questions I'd love to explore is in today's environment, and Mr. Stevens, I left you out as a small businessman, so maybe I'll start with you on the question. There are things I think the government does do to help, and yours is a technology business. Things like a 179, the accelerated depreciation. How important is something like that as you decide to invest, to decide where to put your money to grow your business?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a great question. That has been helpful for us, the Section 179. I know other business owners, I would say it's been the deciding factor whether or not to invest further. For us, it's not been. We've been fortunate enough to grow dramatically either way and really be for growth, even if it wasn't ideal from a tax or other perspective. But I've spoken with many entrepreneurs where that influenced their ability to invest in their business, buy additional equipment, do the other things they wanted to do, which later led to additional job creation. And without that credit, they would have either not done it or put it off another year or another 2 years.
Great, thanks. From your experience, the rest of the panel, are you seeing things like that, other things the government does that helps the client companies you're working with? Ms. Powell?
Thank you for the question. Well, Ranking Member Chu described one that we've been very proud to partner with, which are the SBDCs. These local small business development centers are working with hundreds and hundreds of small businesses, and they're bringing them in and assessing their needs, and then being able to refer them to one of our organizations or many of the other programs out there. So we have a large nominating partnership with them across the country. And what I think they're also trying to do is, one of the things that we've learned is that 10,000 small businesses is not a lecture format. We put every cohort in growth business groups. And so they actually, as I mentioned earlier, have this peer-to-peer learning, and they're teaching each other, or they're relying on each other. They're like living case studies of challenges. The businesses may be extremely diverse, but the challenges are common. And one of the most interesting things we've seen is how they then recommend government contracting programs. They teach some of the minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and other minority-owned businesses to apply for that status, which would surprise you, Congressman, how few businesses out there know. And so there is this referral network that is created. So I would highlight the SBDCs and just the opportunity in some of the government programs to build these networks in communities across the country.
Great. Dr. Morgan.
Congressman Snyder, we refer our students to many of the federal government websites and particularly to the SBA for assistance in starting their businesses and in funding their businesses and moving ahead with the challenges of understanding the laws and the rules and regulations. So you're absolutely right. There are many resources available through the federal government for our small business entrepreneurs.
So I see I'm down to my final 30 seconds, so let me just close with a comment and again a congratulations. The other committee I'm balancing is Foreign Affairs, so congratulations on 10,000 women. That is an incredible program Goldman does and is a thing that I think everyone in the United States should be proud of. But with small businesses, the idea of partnerships, the public-private partnerships, where government works with nonprofit organizations like what you're doing, with private companies like what Goldman Sachs is doing, to help drive the engine. 65% of the jobs in this country are created by small businesses. 55% of the jobs are in small businesses because some of those small businesses grow to be large and it moves the numbers. If we're going to have another American century, it's going to be on the innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurial spirit of the companies you're helping. So again, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you to the gentleman from Illinois. Ms. Chu, can I extend you a courtesy if you'd like to?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Ms. Pate, your organization's SETI program has awarded more than $500,000 to 40 organizations to offer tax preparation services. If these services were not available to small businesses, the micro businesses, where would these individuals go for tax preparation services?
There is not a lot out there for them, frankly. As I mentioned before, if they choose to do their taxes on their own, they may have trouble with that. we only at this point have 16 pilot sites in this VITA initiative with IRS and NCTC. And what we're finding is that over 50% of the people who go through these VITA Schedule C programs return to get their taxes done the following year. So we see a lot of interest and need through just these 16 pilot sites. So we can only imagine what would happen if this were available on a broader scale, and it's possible that that could happen through VITA. But we also need efforts like the Entrepreneur Startup Act that you introduced last tax season, last congressional season, because it would create much more ability for more than just VITA programs to provide free and low-cost tax preparation. It could be done at a state agency level. It could be done at a local agency level. It could be done in a public-private partnership. There are many, many opportunities to expand this model of free and low-cost tax preparation far beyond VITA and make it not as dependent, frankly, on the VITA pilot that we've been pursuing. There are a lot of microenterprise development organizations that get funding from the small business programs, including the Program for Investment in Micro-Entrepreneurs, Women's Business Centers, you mentioned the SBDCs, and also the microloan programs that are trying to serve entrepreneurs as best as they can, but their focus has necessarily been on lending and training and technical assistance, and not so much in the tax field, because you must have specialty and expertise, as we know. So we need to focus on making opportunities much more plentiful for tax preparation than they currently are, and the way to do that would be to create some legislation that would enable that.
Thank you for that. Also in your testimony, you mentioned PACE, an organization, of course, with which I'm very familiar because it's in Los Angeles. And you talked about a business that received a grant from PACE for $5,000, which it used to launch a restaurant. From a program-wide perspective, how successful is the PACE program in cultivating long-term successes like that of the restaurant owner, and what could we learn from it?
So PACE is a wonderful example of one of this integrated service delivery approaches that I mentioned earlier. So they provide workforce training, they provide business development training, financial education, individual development accounts, which are matched savings accounts. And in the fiscal year 2010 through 2011 and cumulative, they had a number of successful outcomes. First, they served 3,526 entrepreneurs. They started 142 new businesses. 400 businesses were either stabilized or expanded. 542 total businesses were assisted. 981 jobs were created. $108 million in sales or gross revenue was obtained, and $9 million in tax revenue generated for local government by businesses assisted through PACE. So these are outcomes that are pretty stunning for a nonprofit, but they're not unusual. There are a number of other microenterprise development organizations throughout the country, as evaluated by the field program at the Aspen Institute through their Micro Tracker program, where the data suggests that since the Great Recession, microenterprise development organizations have increased their lending by 25%, and the number of individuals assisted by 15%. Outcomes data collected in 2011 from 1,200 micro-entrepreneurs served by 23 organizations demonstrate the power of these small businesses to produce jobs for their owners and for others. And many of these small business owners are disadvantaged otherwise in the labor market. So they were having a hard time getting a job. So creating their own job was their best option.
Thank you. Ms. Powell, how do small businesses find out about the 10,000 Small Business Program, and what's the best way to reach out to these small businesses so they know about it?
Well, first, we appreciate champions like you who refer them to applying. And then that's where I think our community partners really come in, whether it's the NFIB, the local chambers, Hispanic chambers. One of the things that was really important to Goldman Sachs as a firm was that this is not just our effort, but rather it is this consortium of institutions who are committed across the country. It's also why when we go to a market, we're not trying to have a generic imprint, but rather a customized local imprint that is developed along with the local community, because that's how we can ensure that it will really build a capacity that can last. So we have a lot of advertising for the program. The SBDCs recruit. The community college in each district puts out calls for applications. And today, with the launch of the national program, we hope people will go to our website at gs.com /10,000 small businesses and learn how to apply from throughout the country for this program.
And what businesses are the ideal fit for your program?
Well, we're really hoping that Mr. Stevens will apply. He is a perfect target. As you can tell, he's had a proven track record. He already has 12 employees, and when he said earlier that, he was looking for access to networks, I think that's what we could really provide. I think he would be able to pitch Servosity very well to other small business owners in the program. But really, it's businesses that have been operating a couple of years, at least 4 employees, that are poised for growth, and that we believe this program, can really make a difference in.
And you've worked with community colleges to ensure that business owners get training. So far, what has Goldman Sachs learned about the capacity of community colleges to educate entrepreneurs?
Well, thank you for that question. We have been really impressed with the community colleges that we have worked with throughout the country. Community colleges, as you know, are one of the most important platforms now in higher education in the United States, particularly when you have a program where adult learning is central to it. And so they are experts in adult learning, in short-term programming, continuing education, but importantly, they're often the bedrock of a community. And immigrants and a very diverse set of individuals will feel very comfortable going to a community college. What we learned, though, was that while they had a lot of workforce training programs, and that's certainly an expertise of community colleges across the country, they didn't necessarily have entrepreneurship centers or centers where you're not learning to train for a specific job that someone created, but rather you want to learn how to create jobs through your business and grow your enterprise. And so I think that's what we believe is the lasting piece of the infrastructure we've invested in, which are these entrepreneurship center. More than 200 community college professors have been trained through 10,000 small businesses. All of the community colleges have access to the curriculum, and then we're very pleased now we're leaving a legacy of local case studies in each of these communities. So we've been impressed with their dedication. The final thing I'll say is that community colleges are entrepreneurial themselves. No offense to the 4-year institutions that we're also proud of. I will say we see them being incredibly entrepreneurial, and this is a program where you have to start from scratch. You have to get the results back and make adjustments to make it even better, and we've been really, really pleased to see it. And we're honored to have Walter Bumpus, who's the head of the Association of Community Colleges, on our advisory council, helping us kind of implement these lasting learnings across the country.
That's very impressive, and I'm sure you're going to see multiplier effects from training so many professors in the community colleges. Dr. Morgan, it's so impressive that Moby was able to develop its program on its own. Does Moby work in tandem with the SBA's entrepreneurial programs? And considering your extensive experience training small businesses, what are some of the things that similar SBA programs could do better?
Well, as I mentioned, Moby was on the website of the SBA until 2006, and then there was a disagreement about intellectual property rights for the Moby curriculum, and the Moby board did not want to give up the ownership of their intellectual property rights, so the SBA removed us from their site. But we would like very much to continue to work with the SBA. We have a curriculum. We update that curriculum. In fact, we'll soon be relaunching our website before the end of the year with a more modern, up-to-date curriculum and with new video. And we're also looking at technology and how do we continue to expand Moby's force around the world. So we would like to be in partnership with the SBA. We do refer our students to the SBA on a regular basis for the services that they provide so well.
Recess till 12.
Oh, okay, very good. Okay.
It's, as you'll learn, we have lots of bells and buzzers, and I've been here 3 years, and I still haven't figured out which bell means what. So,
Well, I'll ask then a couple more questions and yield to the chairman. The other thing I was very impressed by, Dr. Morgan, was you talked about the fact that you had classes that were taught in Spanish, and that prompted eager small business owners to come by the busload from all across Los Angeles. Can you share with the committee what kind of a difference language access has made for non-English speaking entrepreneurs? And would training in other languages benefit the business community and job creation?
Well, we have just launched our myownbusiness.org/Espanol, and it is the website in Spanish for Spanish-speaking patrons of Moby. And we have now 16,000 people per month looking at that website and beginning to utilize it. So we want to continue to expand our Moby base, and we want to continue to convert it into additional languages so that all people can access it and make use of our curriculum.
Very good. Mr. Stevens, based on your testimony, it sounds like the Next Upstate provides an ecosystem for high-growth entrepreneurs to learn from each other and grow. What sort of information and education were you able to receive from your fellow entrepreneurs that you weren't able to receive elsewhere?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Chu. This particular ecosystem has really been fundamental in our growth, and I guess as Mrs. Powell pointed out as an example, the community colleges didn't have an entrepreneurial program. A lot of those resources to learn how to go from point A to point B and then point B to point C weren't there, and the Next ecosystem emerged really with Entrepreneurs and the Greenville Chamber to become its own economic development initiative, but driven by and chaired by the entrepreneurs. And so the entrepreneurs decide what happens, what is needed. That committee decides what we need as entrepreneurs, and so it changes. Things change when the Affordable Care Acts come up. We brought in people to speak about that. When taxes become an issue, we have people to speak about that. Legal issues, growth issues. So just about everything you could mention, we have brought in speakers to help educate. We've had CEO roundtables to help peer-to-peer facilitation. And we've even had special groups formed to address certain issues that only a subset of the group is interested in.
Okay, thank you. Yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Chu. For my own business, we've actually handed out that website many times at many of the different forums. Can I actually solicit a couple questions and give me some education here? If you were, we'll call it a micro business, and are we comfortable with the definition under 10, or do you prefer your definition of under 4?
Under 10 is fine.
Okay. Under 10, in today's world in the United States, what do you think your single biggest difficulty is? Ms. Powell?
Difficulty if you're a micro enterprise?
Yeah. So you're the 10-person plumbing business or little retail business. Because where I'm trying to lead you is my understanding from what we've picked up from national data sets is access to capital. I have amazing appreciation for education on how to do that, but loop it back in.
Sure.
I mean, does anyone disagree with being able to find money?
Well, thank you for asking that, Mr. Chairman, because that's why our program believed that you can't, in order to spur the most growth and to support these businesses most effectively, you have to have 3 legs of the stool: education, capital, and mentoring and networking. And that's why we actually committed, of the $500 million, $300 million was committed to capital, and a very specific kind of capital, if I may describe it. We are actually providing that capital to a nonprofit lending platform called Community Development Financial Institutions. Those are lenders who are trying to give access to capital to the business owners you're describing.
Can I back up just a tiny bit on you? You know, we've also had some of the folks from, is it Samuel Adams Brewery, come talk to us, and the amounts of money they've been putting out in the street in micro-lending to small businesses.
This is not micro-lending.
You know, well, I think they go up to 10,000?
Yeah, we go up to 750. The average loan for us, and so we're above the space. I think that's what's important is there's a life cycle of a small business owner. So you might start out as a 4-person you know, a Mexican restaurant, and you can grow into a catering business, et cetera.
I understand. Okay, I'm with you on the cycle. Where I'm trying to get to is, okay, we've had a conversation here of there is some platforms, though you believe it needs more growth and more government sponsorship, of tax preparation help, of mentoring and education, of you're actually sort of covering all three with both the mentoring and access to capital. And, you know, trying to teach, I've done these classes where you teach folks how to write a basic business plan. One of my great passions and concerns is there's a lot of wonderful actors out there in the community. Goldman Sachs, what they're doing is at a completely different scale than much of what we see. But if I turn to Dr. Morgan and say, your website for the Phoenix market or the LA market, can you have on there everything? Here's the website for the Department of Revenue. Here's how you file your form online. Here's your health license at the county. Here's how you get your tax ID number. Here's how you make an app for this. Are we seeing any unifying force out there that's bringing all those options together? So if I'm that really busy entrepreneur and don't get to have time to go sit with class and sit with my mentor, at least I have access to information that also leads me to that capital and leads me to that information.
Well, I do think you're hitting on something that is a great need, Mr. Chairman. And I think one of the best things that this committee hearing is doing is bringing all of us who are doing different pieces of the work together. And I do think that's an opportunity for this subcommittee, frankly, to bring together more of the public-private partnerships, showcase them together, and have us, frankly, not only work more together, but find ways to advertise our work in a more comprehensive method. On the capital piece, for example, the work that Ms. Pate is doing is helping microlenders. We hope that the work that we're doing are what we call small and medium-sized borrowers who don't have access to capital. Well, and then there's other forms at the end of that life cycle when you've gotten, when Damien breaks 100 employees and can go access a large commercial bank loan, that capital is, we hope, increasingly available. What we're trying to do is target markets where capital doesn't now flow to those borrowers.
Well, we're going to come back and talk to that because I still think we're heading very close to sort of a revolution in access to capital with crowdfunding if the SEC ever finishes its rule sets and some of these other things out there. Dr. Morgan, if I right now lived in wherever in the United States and wanted to go online and have a single portal telling me my access to information, my regs, my filings, my access to money, does such a thing exist, and are you trying to get it there?
Mr. Chairman, you ask a question that our board has spent time discussing because, to our knowledge, there is not that location, that website where you can get all of that information. And we have talked about a continuing education program for our entrepreneurs, for our graduates, so that we can continue to have a discussion where the entrepreneurs share that kind of information. As they seek it out, they would put it on a website, they would put it in a blog.
You would crowdsource the information.
So we would crowdsource the information, exactly.
Okay. Ms. Pate, in your watching the world, do you see such a portal or such with that information's coming together?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. There are organizations at the national level like the Association for Enterprise Opportunity, or AEO, that are working to create these kinds of platforms in partnership with the private sector
Can I ask you just a one-off question?
Sure.
If you were to think about all the different groups that are out there trying to help small businesses, and you know, those that we've created here in government, but also those I've created from my universities, my community college, my NFIBs, and all the other groups. I mean, just off the top of my head, I bet you I can name 24.
And that doesn't even count the local organizations that are providing that kind of one-stop shopping for their clients.
I'm trying to think of the micro entrepreneurs that you and we've all met in our political lives. They're wonderful people. Their lives are so incredibly busy. Time is in many ways their most precious commodity. And my fear is our attempt to help, one of the most powerful things we could all do is sort of narrow, that portal.
So may I make a suggestion? So years ago, when I first came to D.C., I was part of a Clinton administration intergovernmental task force on microenterprise, and it brought together the Department of Treasury, the Department of Labor, the SBA, the Department of Education, all of the relevant agencies on a monthly basis, and we all came together. Nonprofits were invited to the table, as well as the private sector, to talk about how to be more cohesive and aligned in the way we deliver services to the field.
I must, from just a personal standpoint, I believe actually Dr. Morgan may actually have the solution, and that is the crowdsourcing of information, because I find whenever we build bureaucracies to try to help us do it, they mean very well, but they don't move fast enough. And then you get people who fuss over who owns this copyright, who doesn't do this, so you don't get to be on the website. There's got to be a better way to do it, because if you have the 800-pound gorilla like Goldman Sachs, 800-pound helper, it's a very friendly, it's a cuddly gorilla. Those sorts of resources and talent for all these groups that out there that want to, I used to be a treasurer of a very, very large county, and just the number of businesses that would come in every day trying to understand where they get their licenses, what's their tax liabilities, and those things. And we found when we built really strong, powerful websites, they stopped calling because they got the information easy, and we stopped burning their precious time. And last bit of my rambling here. I really believe with what we all did in bipartisan fashion, now 2 years ago, in the Jobs Act, there's things we're going to have to find a way to clean up and fix, because there's problems in the design, and we need still for the SEC to finish its rule sets. But the future crowdfunding, where it may be the tiny little bakery, it may be up to the $1 million. There's a revolution coming in raising money. Will we have the backbone to educate our small entrepreneurs out there how to access it? So with that, my friend from New Jersey, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to Ranking Member Chu. Appreciate this opportunity to ask my question. And in the panel's testimonies, very encouraging, and I applaud your efforts to support entrepreneurs and small businesses. I noticed that several testimonies reference the use of government program or resource supplement to supplement your efforts or attract additional private dollars. This is also encouraging as we work to support and strengthen these programs. So my question is, several of the testimonies also spoke to efforts of supporting low-income or disadvantaged business owners. Can anyone speak to the challenges that have been identified facing this particular population and your company's efforts to address them? And does anyone have suggestions on what we can do at the federal level to better support these businesses? Ms. Powell?
Thank you very much, Congressman Payne, and we're honored to have a number of your constituents who have graduated from 10,000 small businesses, and actually a number of them who came through nominations from Mark Morial and the National Urban League in the area. I think that one of the learnings from 10,000 small businesses
particularly because we're implementing our program through community colleges, and I was referencing earlier the fact that these academic institutions draw from the community and often do have a higher percentage of disadvantaged communities. Our businesses, our 10,000 small business graduates, are actually 50% women or minority-owned businesses, and this is something that we've been extremely proud of, although we're open for all businesses to apply. But I think what's happening is that this particular program and the suite of services it's providing is needed in communities where there are very hardworking, passionate small business owners who are saying, I just need a little bit of knowledge, some capital, and mentoring support, and I will do the rest of the work. I will make the businesses grow. I'll give you one example, if I may, which is Saudia Davis. Saudia is a graduate from our first cohort in the New York, New Jersey area. Saudia started a company called Eco Cleaning in honor of her grandmother, who sadly died of cancer as a result, she believed, of the carcinogens in the chemicals she used as a housekeeper for more than 25 years. So she wanted to start a commercial cleaning company that used eco-friendly products. She'd started the business, had been operating for 2 years, got into 10,000 small businesses, learned how she needed to train her workforce better, write a growth business plan, pitch, become a minority-owned business so that she could compete for other contracts. I'm so proud of her and the results she's had. She's created more than 15 new jobs. American Express named her as one of the Make Mine a Million business owners. She accessed capital from Seedco Financial, her first loan from a CDFI in New York that is one of our nonprofit lending partners, and she is just doing terrific. She's become a role model in the community. So we have so many examples where if you provide access just to the tools, these extraordinary small businessmen and women will do the rest of the work.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you because, in a lot of situations we find just a little technical knowledge. You can see the spirit. You can see that they're ready and willing and the effort is there, but they don't have the technical knowledge. There are certain small aspects that they need to make them successful. So I really applaud a program such as that. Anyone else? Dr. Morgan?
Congressman Payne, thank you for the question. Our program started in Compton, California by Phil Holland, and Phil knew that that was an area with a high profile of minority population and a lower socioeconomic community. And he has been absolutely committed from day one that our program will be offered free of charge so that there is no barrier to people accessing the education necessary to start your own business. And one of the major emphases of our website is how to develop a business plan that will help our entrepreneurs compete for capital in the capital market. So MOBI will continue. It's being funded by estate plans from Mr. Holland long into the future so that it continue to be accessed free of charge by any person who wants to start their own business.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Payne?
Thank you, Representative Payne. We at CFED have focused for the last 35 years on low-income and minority communities, women, people with disabilities, and eradicating some of their barriers to starting their own businesses. So we fight very hard at the federal level to promote year after year funding for the Small Business Administration programs that are serving this population. However, there's never enough funding through these programs, and they're not, frankly, reaching some of the hardest to serve, most disadvantaged entrepreneurs. And what we are hopeful is that through the work of groups like MOBI and others, 10,000 Entrepreneurs, et cetera, that we can begin to raise the level of awareness that programs are out there and that they're having this kind of wonderful impact and maybe get more funding in the market for these groups. I do know that the work of the NAACP, in addition to the work of CFED and the Northwest Area Foundation, will be producing next week in the Northwest a series of informational conversations about African American asset building and entrepreneurship in particular, and I'm helping to lead that effort. So we will be unearthing what we think will be some barriers to accessing those services and getting a better sense of, well, who are serving entrepreneurs of color and women, and what are some of those gaps, and how can we begin to close them?
Well, I appreciate and commend all your efforts. It is my constituents that are looking for these opportunities, and it's a leveling of the playing field. I'm not looking for people that are just going to show up, but we know there's so many people that have the entrepreneurial spirit, but just have not had the training and understanding of it. First-generation entrepreneurs, they don't come from a history of that. Their father wasn't, and their grandfather was. So this little push and this help in getting this population ready and prepared helps the nation, because if they are able to build these businesses, then they don't have to look on the other side for the help that they need if they're not successful. So this helps the nation become stronger in serving this population, and I commend all your efforts. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. With that, I think we're going to shut down, though I will tell you, I was all giddy when I heard Moby was here. Now, for those my age, it's a very popular musician. I'm very fond of him. And
I'm sorry to have disappointed you, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, it's okay. I think he would be creeped out to have a conservative Republican as one of his fans anyway. But with that, I want to thank you for your participation today. The testimony given to us and the examples of the private sector providing small business with knowledge that they need to achieve and maintain success. Through your efforts, entrepreneurs are gaining the skills they need to adjust to the steep learning curve that comes with starting their own business in today's challenging environment. It's been an honor for the committee to have you here. Be prepared. There may be some other questions and some other members here who were not here who may reach out to you and ask for your help for some input. I ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. Without objection, the hearing's now adjourned.